Alright, so we got a big Monday night matchup coming up this week. We got Tampa Bay coming to town on Monday Night Football. Big matchup for NFC supremacy, and a pretty big game in terms of who gets the head-to-head tiebreaker if it all goes all the way down to Week 18. So yeah, big game against the Bucs this week, as Tampa Bay's been considered one of the best teams in football this year, and Baker Mayfield's been a borderline MVP candidate. So let's see how the Lions fare going up into this matchup against Tampa Bay. So currently for the point spread line, the line has Detroit favored in this game by 5.5 points. So Detroit are effectively 6-point favorites to beat the Bucs this week. I mean, usually Vegas has been pretty wild for some of their point spreads, but usually Vegas tends to be right more often than not. Detroit, they lead the all-time series over Tampa Bay 33-30, and Detroit has won 2 of the last 3 meetings against the Bucs. Tampa Bay this year, they're 3-0 on the road this year, but Detroit is 2-0 at home this year. So somebody's unbeaten run is going to end Monday night. So of course, at offense, in terms of key players for the Bucs on offense, of course the quarterback is Baker Mayfield, as Baker has continued to get better and better every year with Tampa Bay. And even this year, he's been a dark horse MVP candidate so far. All I say to Cleveland is you should have never got rid of Baker Mayfield. Like, Cleveland's loss is definitely Tampa Bay's gain. Because Baker so far this year, especially with the run he's had the last couple years with the Bucs, it is all the proof that Tom Brady is indeed expendable, considering that the Bucs have gone better every year ever since Tom Brady retired. In terms of the running backs, well, the Bucs are going to be without Bucky Irving, as he's doubtful with a shoulder injury, and a lot of indications are that he will not be playing in this game. So for the running back core, they'll be having to rely on Rachaad White and Sean Tucker to handle that. And the entire Bucs receiving core is banged up. Like, the only player on the Bucs in the receiving core that isn't banged up is tight end Cade Otton. Because Emeka Egbuka is questionable with a hamstring injury. His status depends on the MRI test that he's supposed to get either today or tomorrow. Like, sometime within the next 24 hours. But that will determine if he's good to go. But most likely, it's probably looking like Egbuka will not be going, and that will suck for him. Because Ibuka's been really good so far early on in the season. Mike Evans, he's questionable with a hamstring injury. His status depends on how Todd Bowles feels in practice. Spoilers. Also, the Bucs are without Jalen McMillan, who's on the IR with neck sprains that he suffered in the preseason. Like, he's not going to be back until, like, maybe around mid-season. Also, the Bucs are going to be without Chris Godwin. He's doubtful with a lower leg injury, and a lot of indications are that he will not be playing in this game. In terms of the D-line, well, the D-line is going to be without Collegiate Cansey. He's on the IR with a pec injury he suffered against the Texans earlier this season. So his status is unknown. But, so the D-line, they still got 2 solid D-linemen to anchor that front. As, you know, their line is still anchored by Vita Vea and Logan Hall. The linebacking core is also there, too. You got Lavonte David. You also got Yaya Diaby, Hassan Reddick, Chris Broswell, and Servakia Dennis. The secondary, it's anchored by All-Pro safety Antoine Winfield Jr. But the secondary is also a bit banged up because Syle McCollum is questionable with a thumb injury and Benjamin Morrison is questionable with a hamstring injury. Their statuses are going to depend on practice and how Todd Bowles feels about it too. So yeah, I mean the receiving core is banged up, the secondary is getting banged up. Like, the Bucs, even despite the Bucs being 5-1, they're starting to get banged up. Kind of like Detroit last year in a way. But even despite that, they do got some names in that secondary. You know, you got Tyke Smith, you got Jacob Parrish. You also got Jamel Dean and Christian Ezine. And of course, like I already mentioned, the Bucs head coach is Todd Bowles, who I honestly thought was going to be fired a couple years ago, but he has gotten but he has been able to keep it going and has great chemistry with Baker Mayfield. So he might be the coach for a while, yeah. And the offensive coordinator is Todd Grizzard. The Bucs do not have a defensive coordinator, so Todd Bowles, I believe, is the play caller for the Bucs defense. And in terms of the offensive defensive rankings, the Bucs offense is the 10th ranked offense in the league, 7th in the passing game, 20th in the run game. So they've had some issues with the run. I wonder how much of that is partially due to Bucky Irving being banged up. And then the Bucs defense is still one of the weak Achilles heels on the Tampa Bay, as Tampa Bay's been more of an offensive team, which is pretty crazy considering Todd Bowles is a defensive-minded coach. Pretty weird. But anyway, Tampa's defense this year is the 19th ranked defense in the league. They're 21st against the pass, but they are a top 5 unit against the run, as they're ranked 5th against the run. So the Bucs know how to stuff the run. So I think the keys to winning this game, obviously, offensively, gotta get pressure to Mayfield and contain him, because Mayfield can be pretty mobile, and if he gets enough time, he's going to sling that thing. I mean, just look at what Mayfield did against the 49ers last week. The entire the Bucs, he didn't even have his entire receiving core. The entire receiving core was out last week. He was literally throwing the ball to a bunch of fucking bums the Bucs pulled off the damn street. A bunch of Florida men. But Baker Mayfield was able to make the absolute most of it against the 49ers, who are also banged up too. And also, I should mention for this game, the Lions are wearing the black jerseys, as you see here. First time this season, the Lions will be bringing the Blackberries out. Whether it's 2 or 3 games is to be determined. I mean, we'll know for sure if it's 2 or 3 games this year that the Lions wear the black jerseys for by Thanksgiving. Because I think it's pretty obvious from the way things are going, the Lions are either wearing the all-blacks against Green Bay on Thanksgiving or the throwbacks. But they'll definitely be wearing the black uniforms against Dallas on Thursday night, most likely, that's for sure. But anyway, see, offensively, gotta find a way to contain Baker Mayfield and get pressure to him. Because if you can get enough pressure to him, Baker Mayfield will bake up some turnovers at the worst possible time. And then offensively, you gotta find a way to establish the run against that Bucs defense. That's not gonna be easy, because that Bucs defense knows how to stop the run. So far, Tampa Bay's been the only team that's been able to stop Philadelphia's tush push. I'll say this, if they can stop the tush push, they can stop any run. So gonna be hard there, but maybe, look at how banged up the secondary is, and look at that pass defense, and maybe take advantage of some mismatches, feed that ball to Amon-Ra and J-Mo. Try and go that route. It's not going to be, this game's going to be an absolute dogfight. But, the Lions, they have always shown up in primetime games except last week. I mean, the Lions are 12-3 in primetime games under Dan Campbell. But I think, this matchup is easily the single most important non-division game the Lions will play this regular season. And coming into this year, I don't think anybody had any idea how important this matchup against Tampa Bay was going to be. But now it's turning the single most important game. Because the Lions, they're coming off that sloppy, heartbreaking loss to Kansas City, a team Detroit upset it on national television 2 years ago, when Detroit were lovable underdogs. Now Detroit is one of the most hated teams in the league, and have shown signs of regression this year. Well, and Detroit, they're coming off that heartbreaking loss on national TV to Kansas City. They're coming back home on national TV against the team that beat the Lions last year. And Tampa Bay, they've been widely considered one of the best teams in the NFL so far. And they have arguably considered the best QB in the league so far this year in Baker Mayfield. In terms of Tampa Bay, I have really no ill will toward Tampa Bay. Honestly, I like what Baker Mayfield and Todd Bowles are building down there in Tampa. They're doing a really good job. Honestly, Tampa Bay is built very similar to how Detroit does. So literally playing the Bucs is literally like looking in the damn mirror. So yeah, I like what they're doing in Tampa Bay. They're doing a lot of good things down there in Tampa. Like, it's pretty crazy that ever since Brady retired and Baker Mayfield came in, the Bucs have just gotten better better and better and better every single year. Like, that's crazy. Like, this game, by all metrics, is a must-win game. Because here's the thing. AFC teams like the Chiefs, they won't prevent Detroit from making the Super Bowl. But NFC teams, like Tampa Bay, like Philadelphia, like the LA Rams, like the Packers, etc., etc., the list goes on. Any NFC team worth a damn you name it, that point is, those type of teams are the teams that will prevent Detroit from making a Super Bowl if Detroit doesn't show up for them. And we also got some new underdogs in the NFC that are starting to show up this year. So these games against NFC non-division NFC opponents, these games are very crucial, and you gotta show up for these games because these are teams you may most likely will have to deal with in the playoffs if you want to go to a Super Bowl. Especially considering that this is a pretty hard part of the schedule for the Lions coming up, because the Lions' next 8 matchups are against NFC teams, and 6 of those 8 are playoff caliber teams. And that run starts this week, Monday night, against Tampa Bay. Like, this is a must-win statement game for the Lions on national television, especially considering the Lions got a bye week next week. So it's very crucial to win and get some possible momentum to head into the bye week with. Like, this is a must-win game. A statement game, too. And I'll be honest, I think Detroit wins this game because every single time Detroit has gotten punched in the mouth in the game, the Lions have always bounced back in a big way. Every time they've gotten punched in the mouth. Like, hell, the Lions haven't lost back-to-back games since 2022 when they started 1-5. Like, ever since that 1-5 start in 2022, Detroit has always bounced back whenever they got punched in the mouth. And I think this Monday night will be no different, because some people are doubting the Lions after, they lost to the Chiefs. Even though part of that was indeed ref ball, but, Detroit was still sloppy despite the ref ball thing. And Detroit honestly did themselves no favors when they couldn't stop the Chiefs on 5 of 7 possessions. But, I think the Lions will bounce back. And I think they beat the Buccaneers and get some big momentum in terms of the NFC hierarchy. And I think Detroit gets some positive momentum entering this game. This game's going to be an absolute dogfight against the Bucs. And I know a lot of people will say, Tampa Bay knows Detroit. It's going to be hard because, with how many times Tampa Bay's played Detroit in the last 2 years, they know that they don't know the Lions well. Well, I mean, it's a two-way street in that argument because even though the Bucs know the Lions pretty well from playing them so many times in the last 2 years, Detroit also knows Tampa Bay very well, too. Like, it's going to be an absolute dogfight. Honestly, it's going to be a good game Monday night. Looking forward to it. Like, I mean, Baker Mayfield's always been a fun QB to watch. And I look forward to seeing what he does. Like, this is going to be a real measuring test for the Lions to see how they match up against one of the hottest teams in the league right now, in the Bucs. And against one of the top QBs in the league so far in Baker Mayfield. Like, a good measuring stick for the Lions. Although the Lions, even though the Lions are going to be without Brian Branch after Branch got a 1-game suspension on the wheel of discipline, I think the Lions will step up. They always step up in these type of games. Like, this is a game the Lions don't need to show up for. This is a game the Lions have to show up for. Like, Lions just got to go out there, play 60 minutes, and go beat the Bucs. I mean, you've done it twice in the last 2 years. Do it again. And no better place to do it than on a national stage on Monday Night Football with the entire nation watching. Anyway, let's get this win. Let's get the 5-2, and let's build some momentum. And of course, as always, as much as I like the Bucs right now, and how much they're built, what I like from what they're building down in Tampa Bay, at the end of the day, it ain't the one pride. And at the end of the day, it's always, go Lions.